Over the years, as I tried to write my stories in computer games, I copied and played so many computer games from the Hidden Fortress and other bulletin board systems. I had attained perhaps 800 games before my run was over, but my access was always lagging months to get the latest games. I was too young to get a real job to buy those games. When I was in 7th grade, I began riding the public transit bus to a computer store that had opened in South San Jose, about an hour's bus ride away. I would go there every other weekend or so just to marvel at the games and dream how I might be able to play them eventually. One day, I observed an Asian man talking to the store clerk about copying the most recent, huge 6 floppy disk game called Time Zone. He told the clerk that he had not yet cracked it. Those were my words. I walked up to the man and told him that I could crack software and maybe I could do it, and he laughed. But I persisted. I insisted I could crack it, and if not, I could trade other games with him if he cracked it. He looked shocked, almost scared, and asked me to go into the back room of the store with him. I did so, and he asked me to bring a list of all the games that I had next weekend, and we would talk then. He told me simply his name was Edward So. Once more, I journeyed to the South San Jose computer store the following weekend and met with Edward So. I gave him my list, and he checked off 50 or more games and said, "If you have these, we can trade software." Ongoing, in fact, every other weekend. Edward So was president and co-founder of Prometheus Hardware, which made modems and printer graphics chips. He was a full-time consultant at the same time for Lockheed Aerospace. And he was a full-time consultant for Apple Computer at the same time. He was a very busy guy, quite possibly a little bit scammy. After all, he had 3 full-time jobs at the same time. We traded software for a year or more before he asked me if I would like to learn more hacker and cracking skills. Well, I did, and he taught me. I learned like a sponge. Everything just made sense. While he taught me, he would sit drinking from his mug, wine, throughout the day. He would drink wine from his coffee mug and watch movies like Aliens, while I learned and I worked and I hacked and I cracked. Ed So and I loved games with a passion. We decided that crackers adding their own cracked by credits tainted the original games and was inappropriate. Yes, that's right. When people cracked software, they often put cracked by the Applesoft attacker or some name that gave them personal recognition for their accomplishments in making the games available to everybody without protection. Well, we never put our names on cracked software, and we felt it was justified in our decision to remove other people's cracker credits. And then we would repost them without the noise of the cracker credits. We called ourselves the cleaning crew. We would scour bulletin board systems, find games that had cracker screens, download them, remove the cracker screens, and then repost them as clean, pure games. It was fun as a game unto itself to hack crackers' hacks. Crackers got wind of what we were doing, though, and it became a sort of unspoken cracker versus cleaner war. One time, Ed showed me something that he encountered. He said, "Watch this." And he launched a program that he had just cleaned. The game booted. The screen went black. A big graphic image appeared in the center with a giant tongue sticking out, and text read, "Stop removing my name." The program promptly formatted the floppy disk in retribution of our daring to remove the cracker's name and credits. Ed was thrilled. It was a challenge. The game was on. Well, I admit that crackers was a way of life, but cracking this thing was way beyond me at the time. But Ed figured it out, and he showed me how the cracker had encrypted the very code, so making it so hard to find. He actually encrypted his code and then compressed his code and then further obfuscated it with an exclusive OR operation so that when he ran the code, the actual code took compressed code, hidden code, obfuscated code, and decrypted it all, and then would run it in memory. It was really quite clever. We encountered more opposing cracker technologies over time, but no one could stand up to Ed's technical prowess. And eventually, they could not stand up to mine. I was a quick study for programming, including its dark arts. When I was 17, Edward So gave me copies of Apple's Programmer Workshop, APW. It was a framework they had made for the Macintosh computers and for their new Apple IIgs. I worked a summer job at Burger King to earn money so I could buy an Apple IIgs and had some left over to buy a VHS video player. I did not earn enough money though to finish what I had set out to do to try to make a game. I needed a second disk drive. It was a mistake that I bought that VHS player. But my mother saw how much work and effort I had put in, and she went out and used a credit card and bought a disk drive for me, the second one I needed. There were no art or audio tools in the era, so I made music, graphics, and map authoring and editing tools as well as the games. I had to write low-level, high-performance graphics bit block transfer software called BLTs or Blitz, and I used direct memory access or DMA to move large swatches of memory at a time. I used a technique called bank switching and zero direct page flipping to have smaller data ranges so you had faster, effectively accessed memory. It was a lot of low-level hardware performance stuff relative to computer games and creation. It is worth noting it was very complicated, and I did everything myself. I was self-taught, excluding mentors like Edward So and the cracker and hacker community of the Hidden Fortress. With hardware and the Macintosh and Apple IIgs APW programming framework in hand, I set out to write the game that would be my first published title, The Tower of Miraglin.